Welcome into the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. We are not in studio today. Instead, we are on the West Coast at this beautiful facility here at UC Irvine, California. We're staying in Costa Mesa. If you've been watching Fox 8 over the last couple of days, we've been doing our shots from Newport Beach, getting the full kind of lay of the land here for Saints Training Camp 2024. I do not have Andre Johnson Jr. with me, as usual, but I do have Juan, the man, the myth, the legend, joining me out here in California. And Juan, we'd like to start this podcast with the big picture, and that's why we're here. We're here for football. We're here for Saints football. And let's be honest, the big picture yesterday, war number 41. He was here. He spoke. He was engaged with his teammates. You would have never known there was a contract dispute based off his body language, and he's all in. No holdout, no hold in. Alvin Kamara is here, and he had a very open, very candid press conference yesterday where he touched on everything. He really didn't leave anything, no stone unturned. He understands where he's at football-wise, but also contract-wise as well.
Sometimes you're not sure which Alvin Kamara you're going to get, depending on the subject matter that you're talking about. But yesterday, he was as open as we've seen him since he's been a Saint, talking about his contract situation, talking about how he wants to be a Saint for life. He made that very, very clear yesterday. But he also talked, Sean, about, you know what, I want something to get done with my contract. He was in Africa during the off-season over the summer. He said he had his feet kicked up, hoping that an extension would happen between his side and the Saints, and nothing has happened. He doesn't want to be seen as a running back that's on the backside of his career, because he believes, as he said, he could play 4 to 5 more years in the NFL, and that his body is not breaking down, that he's as good now as he ever has been. But he also admitted that his last 2 seasons weren't what he expected, and he knows he needs to be better, but his value should not be judged based on those last 2 seasons, but he understands why it is.
Yeah, and you brought it up to him in the press conference, and I thought he was pretty open about that as well. He was open about everything, and you were right, because sometimes with Alvin, he's got a little bit of a mysterious personality. You're not quite going to know where he's at, but I happen to be about 10 yards from here. They were doing the running back drills yesterday. I was right up against them, right behind this little green barricade here, so I can hear what he was saying. He was coaching the younger running backs on how to properly do the drill. He talked about accountability. My point is, he wasn't just here with bad body language, going through the motions. And
because he could be.
Because he could be. And look, there has been times I've been critical of his body language, and that was not the case. So we spoke about the accountability, the new energy, the renewed focus. But I also think the last time we saw Alvin, he was leaving the Metairie facility right before the 3rd day of minicamp. We were all in the parking lot. It was kind of I don't call it a dramatic scene, but it definitely caught your eye, if you will.
Where's your best player?
And then from there, it went total silent, and it was just kind of this off-season summer of uncertainty, and we really haven't gotten any updates in terms of where they're at from the contract negotiation standpoint. So we were all kind of, okay, he's going to show up. Okay, he does show up. Well, is he going to practice? Yeah, he is going to practice. He's going to do everything. Well, he did everything, and not just that, he was fully engaged with his teammates. So if you're the Saints, I mean, it's the best possible outcome. And if you look around the NFL right now, there are several holdouts going on with big-name players. And Alvin Kamara would certainly qualify as a big-name player, and he's here for his teammates. And Derek Carr said something interesting. He said, obviously very glad that he's here, but sometimes being here for your teammates sends a stronger message to the guys upstairs in the front office.
Well, there were 2 messages sent. When he walked out of minicamp, he sent a message that, look, I want to get something done with my contract, and this is my way of saying that it needs to be looked at as an urgency situation. The second message he sent was being in training camp on day 1, and he said, I wanted to be here for my teammates. And that's all you can ask. He's a guy that's come here to work. He's leading his younger running backs. It's a running back room that's in a bit of a disarray right now with Kendra Miller going out because of a hamstring injury yesterday. Dennis Allen was not happy about that. And he said he's got to learn how to keep himself on the field. Got to hydrate, get himself on the field to give himself a chance to make this roster. But that running back room seems to be a little thin right now with him gone, and maybe that gives Alvin Kamara a little more leverage. But make no mistake about it, this is the guy, AK, who sees himself being here for the long term, who sees himself as still the running back that he was 3 years ago, forget the last 2 seasons, who sees himself as a running back that should be compensated as one of the top running backs in the league. But for me, Sean, I think he's got to show that he can still do what he did 3 years ago, and not that just the last 2 years was just an aberration, that wasn't who Alvin Kamara is.
Yeah, look, he turns 29 29 Yeah. So happy birthday, Alvin. I know
hey,
that it's also...
Hey, happy birthday, Alvin and Sean Vazan.
We're the same age. Yeah, absolutely. But age is a factor.
It always is with running backs.
And he spoke about it. That's probably why this is not a straight line to, okay, let's get you an extension. We know he's under contract this year. It should be pointed out, He's going to make about $12 million this year when you add up the base salary and bonuses. That's top 5 in the NFL when it comes to contract money. The question is, where do they find that sweet spot in terms of making him happy and making the organization, fiscally responsible? Me personally, I don't know if it's already been discussed. I understand the risk of not guaranteeing him, of guaranteeing money past this year because he's going to turn 30. So why not give him a raise this year? They got the cap space, bump him up a couple million this year, maybe make him the highest paid running back for this year alone and see what happens. And also he's in the system right now. And I got a feeling this kind of played into this could have been a factor of him coming here and practicing. He didn't know this system, but he knows this system is going to be a running back friendly system. And the player he's been most compared to his entire career, Christian McCaffrey, has flourished in this system. So those are all sort of factors here. But the underlying theme or the underlying issue still remains is, are they going to get worked out? He was very real when he said, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But sounds like even if it doesn't get done, he's all in for 2024.
So this is where you and I disagree, because I'm of the ilk that this guy hasn't done enough for you in the last 2 years. In fact, his numbers have gone down the last 2 seasons. I need him to prove it to me, because, Sean, I'm a believer that if he plays well this season, and maybe the new system is a big reason why, he's still going to be at the table into the season and accept the bigger contract from the Saints and extension. The money will be there. But if I'm Mickey Loomis, if I'm Gail Benson, who's writing the check, I'm saying, you know what? You're on the backside of your career. You're almost 30 years old. You had 2 back-to-back seasons where you didn't play as well. Maybe it was partly because the guys around you weren't very good. The team in general wasn't very good offensively. But I'm going to need you to show me that you deserve a new, bigger extension with this football club. I need you to show me that. He hasn't the last 2 years, and if I'm writing that check, that's what I want to see. Because if you show me you still have it, then we can sit down at the table at the end of the season again and hash out that contract and keep you here as a Saint long term.
Or, and this is where we're kind of in agreement here, or starts the season, no contract, and it's very clear he's flourishing.
Absolutely.
Do you get something done during the season because you know he's flourishing in the system, and maybe the last 2 years were a bit of an aberration? Because I agree. Look, if you listen and watch this podcast over the years, especially the last calendar year, I've been critical at times because I understand they had offensive line issues and the offense was a little stagnant. There were times last year he's one-on-one with the safety, and there wasn't guys making a mistake. The lack of explosive plays was certainly evident at times. That's not just offensive line. That could be him as well. So that's why I've always said, I understand Alvin's side, but I realistically understand the Saints side as well. And if Mickey Loomis spoke a couple of days ago. What was that, 2 days ago? We flew in. We've been working nonstop ever since. I'm not even sure what day it is. Yeah. And he said, about 50% of the people, probably just in life, not just, in football, deserve to get paid more. Yeah. It's understandable. Yeah. But it didn't feel like he was at any rush to be pushed into a contract he doesn't want to sign. That's Mickey. Man, that's Mickey. Mickey is not going to pay one more than
he's gone through a negotiation or two in his lifetime, hasn't he?
He's done a lot of negotiations, so he's not going to be kind of baited or pushed into a contract that wouldn't necessarily make sense for the organization, because ultimately that's what makes sense. But I just wonder where this goes, and it's a very real possibility that Alvin Kamara plays this season out. Next year is no guaranteed money. He's essentially a free agent, and this could realistically be the last year of Alvin Kamara for the New Orleans Saints.
It could be, but I will agree with you on the first thing you said, that, if he starts off the season, let's say the first 6 weeks, he is house on fire. Fantastic. Looking like his old self because he's flourishing in this offense, then I could see the Saints saying, let's go sit down and talk about this and get you extended.
Let me get in front of this now.
Before get out in front, before all the other teams around the league recognize, he's the old AK of old. Then maybe we should get to the table as well. Get it hashed out during the season. I can see that happening with him. I think the Saints want to keep him a Saints for life. I really do. I think they want to make his wishes come true. But again, for me, you've got to show me that you can be a productive running back at the age of 29 and 30 and 31, because that's what we need.
Yeah,
this offense.
That's why as we got closer to camp, and when this first happened, the further I got away from it, I kind of felt like the leverage had twisted, kind of shifted more towards the Saints side, because he was under contract. He wasn't going to be able to sit out the season. Yeah. So if you're not going to be able to sit out the season, because you can't sit out a season and then re-enter the market at 30, having not played a year, and expect to get any kind of money.
He had to be here,
and it sounds to me like Alvin knew that. Alvin understood that, and now that he's here, he's not going to pout. He's going to be a professional and you can get back to the winning ways, which I think is very important, because showing up is one thing, but being engaged and dialed in is another. And I think this team needs it, because you've talked a lot about, that was the other thing we kind of talked about, or that was discussed a lot, was this need for fresh energy, this need for a culture change, this need for accountability. Well, that's filtering down to leaders. Kamara's one of them, Derek Carr's one of them, Eric McCoy's one of them. So I think if you're going to return and come and you know, put your contract to the side, don't just return, you know, just don't just show up in physical only, be there mentally as well. And I think that's certainly not, that's the other bonus to this, is not just that he's here, is that he's fully engaged and wanting to work with his teammates and his new coaches.
And let's not understate it, though. Alvin Kamara is also here because he doesn't want to get fined.
Yeah.
He said yesterday, I'm trying to make money, not give money away. And it's
a
pretty
beautiful quote.
It was one of the
Beautiful
best quotes I've heard in a
yeah.
long time, yes. And he understands that those days missing because you're disgruntled or whatever the case may be, it adds up.
Yeah.
50, 100, whatever the case may be. He don't want to lose that money. So I know while he says he wants to be out here for his teammates, I get that, and that's probably definitely true. He also is here because he's counting the dollars in his head by staying out. I mean, what's he gaining?
Yeah.
Because, again, he's a 29-year-old running back that needs to prove he can still play at a high level. The more time he misses here in this offense that he's trying to get down, it's a negative for him. So I'm glad he's here. And the energy feels like it got lifted.
It definitely did. And I was like, it's weird because I'm not a member of the organization, but we cover this team. I was relieved when I heard him talk, because he was in a good spot.
He was in a
felt
good
like
space.
He was
You're
in a
right.
good spot mentally.
Yep.
Which, I mean, this can really weigh on people, especially these professional athletes. I mean, this is a contract situation. It's compensation. It's fair value. It's market value. These are not always easy situations, and you know, we all deal with it in a regular life, and then these guys have dealt with it publicly. So that can be a tough situation. It can be a burden at times, but it doesn't look like it's a burden for him right now. But the question I have, though, remains: it's what does this ultimately get done, and is he going to ultimately get the money that he wants, and what does that look like going forward?
Well, let me ask you this, Sean, because he kind of hinted at it yesterday. If he doesn't get a deal done here, do you think he plays football again somewhere else? It didn't sound like he wanted to play anywhere else. He's talking about putting his feet up again and doing something else.
I could totally see Alvin seeing Alvin be like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm gonna go to Africa.
Yeah.
I'm gonna travel
He
the
said he got
world.
plenty of money.
I'm gonna do NASCAR like he does, the stuff he seems to be really into. He's very open about the fact he's not really that into football outside of playing for the Saints. He doesn't really watch football as a hobby or anything. So stay tuned with that, because I think that's going to be sort of in the background all season. But as for the football field, now we can all focus on, okay, what's happening on the field? Are they getting better? Because yesterday there was an hour and a half practice, but it was very short, very vanilla. But we rarely talked about that at all. It was all Alvin Kamara. But he got 3 carries. He got a reception yesterday. DeMario Davis had an interception yesterday. I know Nathan Peterman had a big connection to A.T. Perry yesterday. Today, a little bit longer practice. Hopefully get a little more work in.
Yeah.
And now you'll see, not just with us, but probably everybody covering this team, and really just the vibe from the organization will shift solely to actual football on the field.
Yeah, it seems like today will be more of a traditional camp feel where there's really no big headline.
Yeah.
We don't think there will be. Big headline, the Alvin Kamara thing is out of the way. Now we can focus on seeing how this offense looks in 11-on-11 with Derek Carr throwing the ball, and Chris Olave, who we expect to hear from today as well, catching passes, and who's going to emerge at certain positions. Is the offensive line set? Again, there are so many storylines leading into this training camp that we haven't really gotten to, because one, it's very early in camp, and two, Kamara dominated the conversation yesterday.
Kamara dominated the conversation, but he's in a good move. He's in a good place now. The team seems to be in a good place now. I like the sense of self-awareness they have.
Yeah.
But that only takes you so far. Now you got to fix the problem. You know it wasn't good enough. Now you got to fix the problem. This is obviously the start of that. But it's all talk until we see it on the field. And I think there's a realism within an organization about that, but especially in the fan base who are like, you got to show me.
Yeah.
You have to show me, because we've had 3 straight seasons and no playoffs.
Well, it's like Mickey Loomis said the other day that, we've missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. We're in training camp in California because we want to get a camp-type feel, get these guys close together, and it's got to lead to wins.
Yeah.
Getting away for camp is great, but if you're not getting a winning season out of that, then you basically just had a little 4-week vacation, and you get the same result. So, yeah, the self-awareness is there, but how could you not be self-aware when you haven't made the playoffs in 3 straight years? And we're all aware of that. So they need to be better when they come out of training camp. They need to be a better football team. Dennis Allen said we have to have better starts to the season, stacking together wins at the beginning of the season to kind of get above things a little bit, not deal with being 500 all the time. So, I think it's been a good start to camp so far, but we haven't really seen a lot, but we'll start seeing more and more. Again, there's so many battles that have to be figured out. Positions, offensive line, secondary, wide receiver core. Who's your best three? The tight end room, Juan Johnson, when he comes back from injury, how good is that? We know it's deep. How good is that room? There's a lot of things to figure out with this football team. But again, at the end of the day, they have to win football games to get back into the playoffs, because if they don't, Sean, a lot of these coaches will be out of here. That's the expectation.
That's it. I mean, and I think there has to be that has to be expressed, and it has to be felt through the coaches to the players. That sense of urgency and, frankly, pressure. Like, I mean,
the pressure's on.
It's here. You've got to win, despite coming off of a 9-8 season a season ago. I do want to get to a couple little notes here before we get out of here, because we got practice starting here. Chase Young was here on a limited basis. That's certainly progress. Him being on PUP was something to watch. So he's progressing nicely. We've always said he could be the game record. You mentioned Kendre Miller. He was doing warm-ups right here yesterday, and all of a sudden he does one of those and he walks off. Dennis Allen was not happy. Felt like he's a guy that's got to get healthy.
I'll say something on that. With Deuce McAllister and I were talking about that, and Deuce said, look, you got to learn to hydrate your body before you get out here, and you cannot be fooled by the weather. The weather's fantastic, by the way. We've been talking about that. It's in the 70s in the morning. But this change of temperature can fool you into thinking, I don't have to hydrate as much. And you have to hydrate just as much, if not more, to get your body ready for the conditions as it gets warmer and all the work you're doing. So Miller's got to figure it out. He's got to figure it out.
He does. He's a pro. He's a pro now. Now he has to act like a pro.
Exactly.
In other words, you got to take care of your body.
Exactly.
You got to maintenance. It's on you to do it, because if you're not ready, you can't play, you can't show it, you could be cut. It doesn't matter if you're a third-round pick.
There's running backs on the street
or not. Justin Herron left with a knee injury as well. Doesn't seem to be too serious. We'll get a fresh look at some of the guys here today. Day 2. They'll practice today, tomorrow, Saturday, have an off day on Sunday, and away we go with the Saints training camp 2024.
Yep.
All right.
We'll get back to you again very, very soon.
All right. By the way, if you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, share, rate, and review. Hit that subscribe button to get the bell notification for when we drop that fire content, as I tell Andre Johnson Jr. But we'll be back. Again, we're here in sunny California. Andre's taking a little vacation right now. Hopefully, he'll be back soon. And then we'll have more updates from Saints Training Camp 2024 at UC Irvine. For Juan Kincaid, I am Sean Fazan. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.